This is a podcast by the Straits Times.
Singapore is now officially a super-aged society with more than 1 in 5 above the age of 65. But beyond the healthcare budgets and the policy debates, what does that actually look like on the ground? Hello, I'm Lynda Hong, Assistant Podcast Editor of the Straits Times. You're listening to In Your Opinion. In this episode, we'll discuss how seniors can get lonely even if they're living with their families. My guest will unpack the psychology of elderly isolation. She heads a social service agency that engages almost 13,000 seniors, providing them with holistic care and support to help them age healthily within the community. Lions Befrienders Executive Director Karen Wee, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Lynda, and good morning, Singapore.
Yes, Karen, maybe we could discuss a little bit about how serious is this problem of lonely seniors?
Okay, lonely seniors in many parts of the world is also equated with progress. So it comes at the cost with economic development. Having said that, lonely seniors is actually a very serious problem for society as well as for families and individuals. Now, in lonely seniors, people always confuse or rather broadly associate loneliness with staying alone. But staying alone is just a subset of social connectedness, which is also loneliness. So even if an elderly is staying with the family members, he or she could still be lonely. What does loneliness mean? Loneliness means that there is no more connection or there's limited social connection. What it means is when the grandchild comes back, it's like, "Hi, Grandma," closes the door. When he enters the room, he doesn't talk. He comes out only for a meal. So staying in the same family, is there a conversation? Is there people understanding one another? No. Because when we don't talk, we don't have a relationship. When we don't have a relationship, we are like total strangers. No different from two persons in a lift, being close, holding your breath, avoiding stares when the door closes. The moment the door opens, like, "Hey, I'm getting out," and everyone's relieved. And to be fair, every one of us has that. But what is sad is when that happens in their own family among people who stay together. So when we talk about social loneliness and social connectedness, we are looking at beyond just a family knitted by blood or connected by blood. It could be anyone, friends, neighbors. They are now sadly or positively part of the extended family. Why do we say so? In line with the home ownership policy since we had in 1960s, which is important, a side effect comes when every family unit starts to have its own housing. And then if you realize much later, there was a policy of if you stay within your parents by a certain kilometer, you get added rebates for the housing flat. I think that policy came out about 1990s or 80s, late 80s. And more people after getting married will want the freedom. And this is some celebration that we have. It's a positive thing. But when we start having own families, own children, going to work, we have to admit, life in Singapore, in our need to stay relevant in the world, to continue to put food on the table, we work very hard, every one of us. Do we have time for our parents? Answer is no, because if you look at your competing needs, you have children who are confirmed dependent on us. And you look at the parents, who's more independent? Of course, the grandparents, right, with the elderly. So with that, when the shift of resources comes towards other people other than the seniors, and the seniors always say, "Don't worry, I'm okay." But actually, they still need the high touch because they are trained to say, we need the children to do well. So they will hold back themselves. They will not demand of our time. Yes, many of us have the money. We can give money. We also use ATM. We also use gyro. Yeah, we use online banking to transfer money to parents into their bank account. All right. So with technology, people have gotten very efficient, which is not wrong, but it means that human relationships are now less common, more shallow or less deeper. And it's very limited. The same goes for the seniors. So when they tell the children, don't worry, but the question is they keep everything to themselves. Do they have people to talk with or talk to? That is the most important thing. And yesterday I was at an international conference and it was stated there is a strong association in the research that aging decline in the person's cognition, etc., it's more associated with social health than physical health. Meaning, a person can be physically healthy, but socially less connected. He will have a poorer health results or impact than a person who is socially healthy, but less physically healthy. What keeps us going and getting out of bed every day? Is it a job? Or is it children? Is it grandchildren? Is it your friends? So if you compare the two, is it money or work satisfaction or family or friends, which is about relationship. So when a person is socially lonely, that part is something that affects them getting out of bed, which is also one of the 8 domains in the World Health Organization in terms of purpose.
So it seems like earlier when you said about seniors not wanting to tell their children that everything, or they want to tell their children that everything is okay, it seems like seniors becoming lonely is not very obvious.
Loneliness is actually it's like a silent cancer. It's a silent death killer. Over time, it's compounded. The person will turn depressed. So in terms of the emotions, whereby he'll be sadder, depressed is one thing. Then after that, connection-wise, because there's less interaction, whether it's a social part or a technology part, okay, because you can have friends over the internet, you can have friends online with you, that's fine. That's still social connectedness. There's still digital connectedness. But the problem comes when the person says, I don't want, or I'm not important, I'm not needed, I'm not valued, I'm not needed in this world. That's where the start of the depression comes in. And that's where all the negative thoughts will come. Because that's the emotion and it affects the cognition. After social loneliness, the next killer is dementia, which is associated very much with depression. So depression is the second one that causes a second trigger that will affect the physical health decline and the cognition decline. So when a person is socially lonely over time, it will affect 3 domains of the 8 domains that is needed for a holistic health of a person as per WHO, World Health Organization. What it means is, in a rehash, social loneliness, which is on the social aspect, social component, will affect then the cognitive impact or the emotional part as well, and then the physical. So dementia below 80 affects 1 in 10. Once you pass 80, it's 1 in 2. And 1 in 10, the problem with 1 in 10 is that out of it, a lot of it is early stage and low moderate. It's only obvious when it's advanced stage, where the person cannot recognize you and keeps on repeating himself like a broken record. Okay? Or loses his way home, etc.
But what if old people always, when they talk, they're always repeating themselves? And it always sounds like nagging. Does that indicate?
No, that one's actually
repeating?
a habit.
Okay.
Yeah. But what thing is very obvious is, for example, when you ask them, have you eaten? Has already just ate. They said no. And keeps on being stuck in the time wrap.
Okay. Yes. That's a sign of dementia. Okay.
Yeah, that was an obvious sign of dementia, which only it's the advanced and also the high moderate stage. But the early stage, no. And the thing is, dementia itself is not reversible, but you can delay. So if the person, firstly, is socially connected, all these early signs will be detected, right? Because someone cares for them. But if they are staying in the house with family members, but no one's talking to them, perhaps only the helper, who then can notice this? And question is, if the helper wants to report this to the family members, then they catch it. Okay.
So does that mean that, is there a large proportion of such seniors who, they are lonely, they live with families, and nobody really talks to them?
It's getting significant.
Okay.
So when we look at the stats, okay, today we have 800 over 1,000 seniors who are 65 years and above.
The super aged society that we are in
Yes.
now. Yes, okay.
And in 2030, it will be 1 million. Okay. Now, if you compare the statistics of seniors staying alone, today it's 87,000. In 2030, it'll be 120,000. Do we say that lonely seniors is only maximum 120,000 because we only have 120,000 seniors staying alone? Answer is no. The balance of the 1 million people, at least 30 to 40% can be lonely. And why do we say that? Now, there are three reasons. One is by the time the people retire, okay, especially the males, most of them have formed their identity around the work. Okay, this is the older generation. It's a different statistics from our current generation. Okay, so I'm in the 50s. And it'll be very different for the younger one. Now, why we say that? So with this means they were busy at putting food on the table. If they had formed friendships at work and they have a few friends, they will continue that. Now, over time, if the spouse is still alive, the wife is still alive, good. If the wife passes on, he's really alone. And he depends on the children, and males of that generation are brought up differently.
They don't really mix with their children also
Yes.
because, as you said, they're out working. So there's
Correct.
very little social interaction during the time when the children were growing up.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing. Now, how do we know? And if you look at correlation, women live longer than males. Women live longer than men. And that is actually the lifespan. The health span, actually, everyone's below it. So women have a health span which is 10 years lesser than lifespan. So if they're 80 years old, their quality of health is actually
So they are poorer quality of health
Yes.
than men. Okay.
Okay. So male is also behind, but that. So that one's actually a detraction topic. Now, if we go back to the main one, so the first thing is about males retiring at that age. Then the second one is when they go back to society, how active. There are a lot of interest groups, there's a lot of public policies, a lot of activities available at active aging centers, but the male sign-up is very few. So a lot of time it's the females. So in terms of the loneliness, we notice if predominantly if the males are not well engaged and they're not speaking up, there will be an issue. In general, there are also those people who do not want to come out of the house all the time. Maybe they've been working or they feel that they don't want to mix with the society by choice. And that one, the second reason is also partly because of the fact that the way we grew up. How do I say? If we had grown up in the 60s, we stay in kampungs. And then we moved to the flats around the same time and 70s. Our front door and our front gates are open. Now, if you go on later, if they're in the 1990s, as society progresses, you may have everyone's busy, the front door is closed, the gates are closed. Okay, or cases where they're at home, the front door is open, the gates closed. Now you fast forward to today. When we do door knocking, you find that most of the doors are closed, but we know someone's behind because you can hear voices, and we knock, they just don't open. Why? Because one is about the change in culture. The other problem is scam is also on the rise.
Okay.
So people are also careful about opening the doors. There was a stage whereby they tell you peep through the peephole, don't open the doors immediately, or you latched it when you open. Yeah. So that became another problem. So in terms of loneliness, it's like, how do I know this person is generally trying to reach out to me? How do I know this person is really from the active aging center, or this person is really from the grassroots, or for the different reasons? So these are the three more common reasons, whereby we are able to see or associate with the trend in people getting lonely.
So does that mean that it's a very obvious trait of you see them looking very fine, you see them living with their family, but actually they're lonely because the family members don't even interact with them?
That's one. And secondly, is because they don't have friends, or they didn't make the effort to have friends.
Okay. So you mentioned about this demographic changing, and you, Lions Befrienders, has actually been knocking on doors. Are you all changing the way you are reaching out to seniors then?
Yes. So in terms of outreach, we have a whole spectrum, which means that you have to target the traditional way, door knocks, flyers, posters, connections, referrals, etc. We also have village chiefs, means technically senior volunteers and senior volunteer champions. Now, the other way is to reach out to their children. So we reached out to the children through different avenues and either by the publicity in social media.
How do you get hold of the children or get their contacts in the first place?
Okay, one is general social media, whereby we have TikTok. We also have it on YouTube, and then they refer. So usually some of the seniors will share information. So in every community, when there are lonely people, etc., it's not just our colleagues who see it. It's not just the charity. It's not just government's policy. It's actually everyone in the community who share the information. So who is lonely? How do we know is lonely? It's actually through the hawkers, the point of referrals, because everyone has a pattern. I will share that more. So it's all the people around, and then even mothers who are waiting for the children in the school bus, because every one of us have a trait. For example, seniors, if they are lonely, they sit down at the void deck, and then they sit down there for hours. So the mothers who come down, pick up the children from the school bus will know that. So the thing is, only when a person is absent, when the hawker says, how come this uncle doesn't come down for the last 2 days? Then when they inform us, we have to... so that was in the past. And now we have technology, so we call on them more frequently, whereby we do check-ins. Because now we use voice AI, etc. And voice AI also smart enough to speak 1 national language and 4 official languages, including Singlish and dialects. So it has emulated that level. Now, so the thing is that only in the past, only when the person is missing from the daily routine, that's how we know the person, something has happened. So the thing is that it takes a village to take care of one another. So cannot just say, this is government's problem. Policy, right? You make us stay separately, or you give us very good incentives and the children are doing well. With good economy comes with all these issues as well. It's normal in any society. Progress is good, but progress comes at a cost. And so that's one. The second one is cannot say, you have a charity. Ask a charity to do it. And that's the reason why we're called charity. We also short manpower. Okay, so but if you increase manpower, who's paying? Taxpayers. So then the third one is cannot. So it takes a village, because it cannot be. This is not my problem. So social loneliness, concern of it. People always think it is not me. It is not my parents. So I don't care. It's not my business. The problem that we have today is about mindset. How can you make a person less lonely? Is in the lift when you see someone coming in. Nowadays, do we even smile at them? It's like, I don't know you, same block, not my business. Yeah. In the past, I will remember in 70s and 80s and maybe 90s or so, when you come in the lift, people do smile. So the question is, do we make the effort to connect with other people? So the problem then will come is not when the person gets old, then therefore it's lonely. It's along the years when the person's from 20s, 30s, stay in the lift, don't even greet people, come home from work, stay at home, close the door. So by over time, the habit builds up. So by the time I reach 60 or 65, hey, I'm retired. I realize I got no friends. I have less things to do. But retirees won't tell you that, because when they start on the retirement journey, it's exciting because they've been working, going to work. Everyone goes to work like 8 o'clock all the way, we come back 7 o'clock. So now they've got time on their hand. They can do what they want. But after a few months, then reality kicks in. The question then, after that, they have to find things to do, etc., find engagement, employment, etc. That's fine. The question is, do they try to engage themselves or in the neighborhood getting to know people, or people getting to know them? So if you go back to the time when we're talking about the lifts, everyone's engaging one another. Then now do we do that? Because everyone's busy. So the thing is, it is society's responsibility, and it's also society's obligation to slow down, smile, and really ask the person, have either firstly greet the person. Over time is, how are you? But you cannot make it such that it's very cursory. Okay.
So you talked about all this app also, right, just now. Lions Befrienders has been doing quite a good job at keeping seniors safe and making sure that they are actually alive by monitoring them remotely. How do you actually replace this with an actual conversation to make sure that they're not that socially lonely?
Okay, so for us, we use voice AI nowadays. Whether we call them or we use voice AI, the most importantly is focus on them. We need to understand them. We do have some information, but by the questions that we train our staff and the questions that we train the machines, the AI, voice AI agent, and we do tight supervision in the early days and hand-holding of the staff. Okay, so what it means is technically, when we ask a question, we are able to also know their habits, know what they like, their interests. And during the time of circuit breaker, we also noticed this, and this is very important. During circuit breaker, we knocked on the door, realized the senior is not there, but no smell, nothing. We found the senior
smell of
decay.
Someone when they pass, unnoticed, and they died lah.
So we are very fortunate, thanks to the group of volunteers, thanks to all our colleagues, etc., and the neighbors and the community. During circuit breaker, we have in LB, we have 6,500 seniors, but no known death of seniors behind closed door. But it was very draining because the amount of effort to make sure everyone's okay. Back to talking about data. So one of the senior went to the beach, but luckily it was recorded that he had certain habits, or I think there was another one who likes to go down and sit in Chinatown. So we have all these records. We cannot find them. We will then send someone down to search. It is true. And it takes a lot of effort. So it takes like half a day. What's important now is with the voice AI check-in, they would know their habits. So I give you an example. So the senior will ask, strangely, the senior ask, what is the weather in California today? And people are like, why are you asking that question, right? So the machine can answer. The voice AI will be able to, because it's using AI technology and search, right? It will be able to tell. And then the next thing is the machine will ask back, the voice AI will ask back, have you called your grandson today? It's his birthday and it's in California. If I change a staff and a caller, every time he calls, we have to refresh the memory. And firstly, a human, this is a digression a bit. So the human cannot tell what's the weather like in California, but also doesn't understand the context in which he asked that question. Okay, but the machine has memory, because if you play your Gen AI, it captures, unless you say clear the cache, right? It has your memory for a long time.
It's a bit of a prompt engineering lah.
Correct. But it's kept in. So then over time, so the conversation can go on. Because the conversation is about the senior.
Right.
Because it's customized. And the machine knows, rather I would say machine, the voice AI agent knows the person's habits, etc. And we are very careful about the cybersecurity, the PDPA, and we ring fence. So that means the access to all this information is only restricted to the head of IT and also the head of the AACs. That's all. Very important.
But it also brings about another issue where there are people who always talk to Gen AI and they depend on Gen AI. And in fact, in Japan, there's someone who married a Gen AI. Something along the lines of that, right?
Yes.
So do you think, what does it say about our society? Do you feel sad about this? Is this a sad state of affairs?
As a person, I prefer social connection with another human. So to answer your question, to me, it is a sad state of affair. However, we have to make sure that the entire ecosystem captures every one of them. So we always make sure the one is this system will catch those who really don't, we'll check on everybody, but we supplement with a lot of human touch, because when this elevates so from an organization perspective now, it's a bit different, okay? So from a societal organization's perspective, you can capture everybody, even those who don't want to engage with other people. They don't open up the door. But they will then we can engage them that way. We don't lose them, okay? Now, for most of the people, we continually to do the outreach, constantly get them involved in all the activities. The social bonding is important. So we call it the jio, right? You jio your friend to come down, drink a coffee. So in the active aging centers, we have satellites. So we go to them, get them down, get them to get a friend to come down. It's not so much about numbers. It's about getting them out of the house. And once they get a habit or the hang of getting out of the house and enjoy the activity, they will come back. So that is where that is the main force whereby we have the high touch. But we need the high tech because it helps to also, from a efficiency point of view, it helps our staff to do the higher order work, to do the engagement, to understand the humans that the machine cannot. Because the machines, you need to feed information, you need to feed inputs to make it more intelligent. But they cannot read, at this point in time, they cannot discern body languages very well. So if there's a shift in body language, you won't be able to pick up. That's still the human eye. So so we're also very thankful. So that human aspect can, at the moment, cannot be replaced. But I'm not saying that in the next 5 years it cannot be, because machines are getting smarter, technology is getting smarter. But that shift of body language is critical, because in terms of social loneliness, communication is important. But what is communication? I think we all learn in Communication 101. Bulk of it, majority, is body language. Then you have the verbal and the written. Written is much smaller. So most important in terms of social loneliness is when you see the senior saying, I'm okay, but actually body language is not showing it. So then the person, our staff or a volunteer has to go in, or a senior who is discerning will go in and say, hey, come join us. It's okay, just come join us. And they will resist. Many times you have to do this until they come out. But when they come out, then experience, you've got to make sure they're comfortable. And we're having this topic is because social loneliness is actually getting very important. The next part is, how do we identify? Do we know who is lonely? Do we know how to get to them? Then do we know who to call for help when we find out such people are lonely? What are the access points? And then how do you make their family members and the people around there be aware that there's this person? So the most important thing is that the care, if the human doesn't want another human to give them the care, we will have to use other ways to get to them, which is the technology, connection, etc. Or some people look at pets, which is non-human, but another living thing. So the thing is, when you look at spectrum, you have machines, you have non-living things.
Yeah.
Non-human living things. Sorry, pets are. Yeah, non-human living things, and then human living things. So the whole thing is, everybody wants that care, the connection. You can't run away. So how do we identify? So the system, we have an ecosystem that can identify who needs what, and that's important. Then next one is how to give who what. Right? Example, if the person doesn't want human interaction, we give them the machines. Okay, but we also have to balance with people who want interaction. For efficiency, effectiveness, and manpower issues, we do have to use machines as well. Okay, then over time, mainly is everybody needs to feel loved. Everyone needs to feel that they exist. And the other task, the most important part especially for seniors, they always feel that I'm old, I'm not needed, I'm useless. And that's a mindset change, not just for them, it's also for society. So the most important thing, if you look at the whole progression of life, is I exist. Do you know I'm here? That's all. So if you know I'm here, do I matter to you? If not, when I'm gone, do you even notice? That is social loneliness.
How does Lions Befrienders do that? Make seniors feel like they matter, and they're retired and they're not doing anything. They're just coming to you guys. How do you make them feel a different way, apart from being socially lonely?
So at the onset when they come in, right? Or on the onset when we meet them, even in the neighborhood, I think the most important thing is to identify and acknowledge that they are a human, regardless of who they were last time in their careers, okay, or who they are in social economic status, that they exist, they are human. It will show through your mannerism. It will also show through your eyes. And you may be asking a lot of questions, but if those are technical questions and the way it's delivered, okay, how do we say that? It's because times when we get researchers coming down to do work, and those research that is not reached is because the researcher, the person doing the question, is very technical, is very robotic. So the answer the person gets, because it's a mirroring of relationship, okay, the answer will be very short and sweet. You don't get information, and it's a very shallow research work. Now, so the most important thing is it's about how we behave and how we communicate to the seniors. Our staff may be young, but the moment you are sincere and authentic, interested in them as a person, they will feel welcome and they will start walking towards us. Means technically they will start opening up. It may not be at one instance, but it may take some time. Then they will start making the next step, and then we'll tell them, would you like to join? What are your interests? Would you like to join A? Would you like to join B? They will start coming. So relationships is built over time. Now, underpinning relationship is trust. So for us in LB, we focus very much on the trust. That's the reason why we have no known deaths during the circuit breaker with all 6,500 seniors being alive, because they trust us, they will come forward and they will share and they will look after one another. And that's important. Okay, they feel needed, they feel welcome in the community. So fundamentally for us in Lions Befrienders, it started very much with our history of 30 years of befriending. This is our 31 year. So befriending means last time we were working with Samsui women and then the lonely seniors. That's our genesis. So we have that relationship. We also have the training for the new staff. That thing is the fundamental. Even though now, technically, we are no longer doing island-wide befriending, all befriending work becomes part of the AAC, which is Active Aging Centre, which is part of the integrated comcare. It also shows that because it's now no longer an external program, it is a core function of every work that we do in senior care as well as youth services as well. I mean, beyond this. So the key word technically is about befriending. So befriending will help. Befriending is not just a staff. Befriending is anybody. So when you have befriending, you reduce social loneliness. Because when sitting down there in the void deck, I can befriend you. And befriend, even from children, this starts off in primary school or kindergarten. Can I friend you? Right? Or the kids will trade things. Do you want a candy? From a young stage, we learn about human relations. All these things is natural human nature. So the thing is that if human nature has it, it becomes easy. It's a propensity in all of us, but different people react at different levels and different things. So with that, it's not difficult for any one of us to help in reducing social loneliness. And don't just say because this senior, suddenly everyone becomes so friendly as seniors, but then the person who's 40 years old could also be lonely. So loneliness, social loneliness is not restricted to seniors. So it should be part of societal's way of engaging one another, really genuinely be interested in one another as a human being. I think then life will be much easier, because when you offer your hand first, or when you take the first smile and greet somebody else, there will be some response and reciprocation. And that will then lead on to the second level of further conversations, etc. But having said all this thing, the economic cost of social loneliness will be very expensive. So if from a very practical perspective, now I shift, because all along I was just talking about the emotional part. So now we have to talk about to reach out to people and viewers and listeners who are very practical. Okay? The question is, socially lonely, so what? Well, socially lonely equals huge cost. Because if you look at the social, the physical, as well as the emotional decline, the economic cost is high. Why do you think we have huge mental health problems today? Why do we have a rise or spark in so many psychiatrists, counselors, as people want to help? But if you look at the number of universities and colleges offering counseling, it has risen dramatically, maybe several times over in the last 10 years. Before COVID, it's a stigma to even say, I need help. Why we know is because if you look at the counseling centers or anything that says related to mental health, there are very few people going in. They're going by appointment. And it's also a shame to say that I am going for counseling. Now, after COVID, people are becoming more open. This is talking about Singapore. People are saying, oh, I'm going for my counseling. So counseling becomes like I'm going to the gym. And this is in the US, this is part of their DNA. It's natural. There's nothing wrong seeking a counselor. There's nothing wrong going for some help. But last time before COVID, people said, this one going for counseling. What problem is it? And if you're looking for a psychiatrist, siao ha. You get me?
Yes.
So a lot of the stigmas come. So, which means to say that there's economic costs, but how much do we pay for a counseling session? It's not cheap either. So if you look at the cost of social loneliness, whether it's an emotional, societal cost, physical cost, economic cost, it's very expensive. Loneliness is also one of the triggers for suicides because people don't understand them. I don't matter anymore, so why should I carry on living when life is tough? If you look at the whole spectrum, it has very expensive cost. Cost to the country, which means that if we can address this from the foundation of having good social health, good connectedness, all the others cost issues will be reduced. There is always a root cause to everything. So what is that root cost?
We actually have HDB and we did away with the kampung, but therein lies kind of a growing problem as well, right? You mentioned just now people try to knock, your volunteers try to knock and nobody is responding. So how do you actually break down these HDB corridors apart from those things that you were talking about? Yeah, that we're not scammers.
Okay. It helped when Min Ong did the announcement in 2022 about the fact that we have active aging centers and they're coming to you. Okay. Before that, when we were part of the pilot, we were really struggling. So how we break down corridors is communication. There needs to be publicity. There needs to be advocacy, which is why today we are here to advocate for importance of social loneliness and the impact on society, which means to say we are doing the communication of awareness at the moment. Now, what's more interested is we want the action. And the action means to reduce social loneliness. So when we talk about HDB flats, how do we break down the things or how do we communicate with them? That's communication, then followed by a strategy of going to fan out, not just with ourselves and Lions Befrienders or other charities. We also partner with a lot of other agencies, including grassroots. So when we knock repeatedly, and we knock in a concerted effort, we have block coverage. That means technically it becomes effective system, whereby we will knock on the doors and certain dates, certain times we note. Then also we have the Silver Generation Office. They knock on the doors, they get more information. And all this thing is centralized data now. So which means that if you want to know, let's say we're covering this boundary, what happens is the SGO will also indicate that in this block, who are they? But just initials, we don't know their names because it's PDPA, we can't have all the information. Just tell us that, okay, there is someone who's 60 and above living in this unit in this block. That's all. So then we have to follow a door knock. So which means to say, and because SGO does it once a year, so for us, ours is more dedicated.
Do you need a lot of kampung spirit to do this? How has the kampung spirit evolved? You mentioned about the 60s, we used to live in kampungs. In your opinion, what do you see as, how has that evolved in the terms of kampung spirit?
So the kampung spirit was much better and deeper, and you cannot escape it when you're staying in the kampungs. Now, when we move into the flats, you need a lot of concerted effort. That means you put in many times more the effort, like 10 times more the effort, to get people to come downstairs for sharing, for communal dining, etc. And that we do at AACs, but also if you look at grassroots, they also have all these block parties. So, but you realize that all these things, you only have the same old few people. So these are the regulars. But what we want is the unconverted, those who don't want to come down. So we need to actually extend. So how has kampung spirit evolved over the years? Kampung spirit is much more difficult. It exists, but it's been reduced. Then the question comes, can we transfer this kampung spirit out of maybe HDB flats, but into the schools, into the community? So you have to do a variation of the kampung spirit. Basically, technically say that we belong. So now you have variation, we belong this community. But because through technology, you can do it physically, you can do it virtually. So there are many hybrids way of doing things. And you have to think beyond the traditional boxes, traditional way of doing things. You think creatively, and that becomes important.
And what about this dealing with aging? I'm sure Singapore is not the only super aged society. Are there any other things that we can draw from other countries?
Yes. So one is we are looking from a policy level now in Singapore, we're looking at home care. So in terms of the super aged thing, we cannot keep on building nursing homes because land scarcity and also labor shortage. And for us, our philosophy has moved into the home care, which is for everyone to age well at home and move on from there, which means that the entire services and programming is now in the community. But it's also good because actually staying in nursing home can be lonely except for connection with the nurses and the staff if the family doesn't come and visit. But when they stay in their own place, they have the right, they have dignity of agency to even want to go anywhere to step out. So they have choices and there's empowerment. So this is where we feel that the best way to stay is in the community. And from there, nothing changes because imagine a person is artificially taken out from an area to go to another area.
Were there any countries that we would be able to draw best practices from then?
In terms of areas that we can learn from other countries would be home care. The second one is the quality of life. The third one would be different lenses different mindsets of viewing hood. Now, one is we talk about home care. We're looking at all the services coming there. We look at the best quality coming from a lot of countries learn from the Nordic countries. The second one is if it's from Asia, it's Japan. It's always Nordic countries and Japan. They have one of the more developed home care ecosystem. That having aside, the second one that we're looking for is in terms of quality of life. Interestingly, the quality of life best is also in those few countries. And what I mean by quality of life is because how they from early, don't just wait for 60s, they have a best quality of life, holistic. So they generally don't work long hours. Japan is a little bit different. So you look at Nordic countries, they don't work long hours, but they make sure each hour is fully accounted for, is highly productive. So the issue is mindset. How can you do more things with less time? The third one is also the spectrum activities. So the thing is, people are encouraged, as mindset. From young, you're encouraged to pursue your passion. Pursue and develop and do it well. Pursue your passion. Do it well, go in depth. Now, in Singapore's context, we are all in the rat race. From young, we focus on academics, going to the best schools, going to this. And then children are not allowed to pursue their passion if it's not in line with the general direction. Objective is to get them economically viable. When they go to university, they graduate, they get a job that pays well, that pays the bills, okay? So when this mindset is going to be very different from another country's mindset where from young, you're asked to pursue your passion, be good at it. So which means that craftsmen are also respected. So in Japan, the craftsmen are respected and they are well paid. And other countries like Australia or this thing, blue-collar workers are also well paid, like plumbers. So basically, when this mindset is there, it also means that technically your interest grows, you have good interest and good passion, and you know what you want to do, even to the point of death in terms of passion. Singapore, a bit tighter. So it's about, what do you call it? In Chinese, we call it 价值观念, which is the value system is different. So all these three things will affect aging. And when we actually hosted the Africans here to our Kampung Admiralty, and we went around asking everyone on the group, whether it's the Africans and all the others from the ISO. The African asked me something. He said, I don't see any family members around. Everyone's just a senior and a stranger living together in that same block. I mean, stranger means technically like caregiver, etc., which is a maid. Where are the children? Where are the families? So that has always been the traditional extended support group for the seniors, but not in today's fast-paced society, a fast-paced modern society like Singapore. There is no more support group for the lonely seniors because the family fabric is not there. Then what is the next alternative? So these are a few things that we have to learn. We have to also change the mindset. If you look at all this thing, it's all about mindset. You can learn from the best models. We bring it here, but seniors, they don't want to buy it. They don't want. So the question comes is, at seniorhood, what can you do with your life? Cannot say at the point whereby I retire, nothing else to do, the clock stands still. Some seniors actually are very happy to teach. Okay, so in Lions Befrienders, we have digital storytelling for the kindergarteners. And the seniors go and learn digital work and then do storytelling. Some of them also, for us, undergo the Japanese training in storytelling. And then they do storytelling at the Chingay PA. Then some of the and the objective is to share values as they do the storytelling. It's not the money. There's not much money involved in this. So this is about engagement and sharing the heritage and values through storytelling to the next generation. And all of us always hope that the next generation will do better than us. That means society has progressed. We leave this world a better world. Then the other group of seniors that we look at is they don't mind mentoring the at-risk youth, etc., sharing their interests to inspire them. Then the other seniors don't mind helping other seniors, which means that they also look at giving back. So if you look at the whole spectrum, while it's about mindset and to understand at the age when you have retired, you need not be lonely anymore because you have the mindset that I can support, I can contribute, even helping to lay the tables to support other seniors or to perform at nursing homes and hospice is what actually at Lions Befrienders we do. We are very focused on the seniors learning something, learning activity, learning a skill, and then giving back to society. So now you even have them performing drumming at nursing homes or opening of events. And now we also have shifted by moving our activities into the mall, like doing crochet in the mall, etc. And it becomes a very interesting activity. So what I'm trying to say is that it all has to do with mindset. if the mindset of a person who is lonely says that, oh, I'm not needed in the world. Oh, people look down upon me. Oh, they look at me very strangely because I have some defects. Then with that perception, it's very hard for that person to step out. But once the mindset changes, perspective changes, and he makes the first step, whether it's family or not, there will be reduction in loneliness. And reduction in loneliness, he'll lead a more purposeful life. It actually boils down to the same principles. Fundamentally, it's about the principles of 8 components of holistic health, which is equivalent to quality of life. Now, what are the 8 components? Social, emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, economic with finance, the environment. The environment is changing to suit them. And the other one is in terms of the engagement, whether you engage as a volunteer or engage in micro jobs or engage in fractional employment or engage in different ways. It's about that perspective. Then with that 8, it equals to quality of life. And in terms of spiritual, it's not just about religion. It is one of the components. It's about purpose. What gets you out of bed every morning? I think that addresses not just for the seniors, but every one of us. So from young, we should start to have the very strong domains, at least out of 5 of the 8 domains, okay? Because from young, we should have socially, emotional, mental, physical, spiritual strength, holistic health. Then over time, this becomes part of life. So don't just focus on one thing and then neglect all the others. So when we are holistically developed from young, and as parents and grandparents, we institute in the young generation, because it's always easy to change things upstream. By the time I'm 60 years old, it's going to be very hard to change habits. It takes a lot of effort from anyone to make the first move. So what I'm trying to say is that don't let us not just keep on focusing on aging, focusing on working people 60 years old, because social loneliness starts from all the way back. Social loneliness is not just a senior problem, but it is prevalent now because there are large numbers. Okay, and it's showing up because it's becoming more obvious. But having said that, social loneliness is not restricted to them. It's actually every age group we have it. So the question is, why wait until 60, then we spotlight on them? It's the same thing as asking, why wait till the dementia happens, then you send somebody for the dementia intervention? Because in early days, in their early stages, there are some signs already. So why is it that we have to wait for something to happen, then we do it? Prevention is way better than intervention. So social loneliness cannot be rather now we are all looking at social loneliness as a solution with doing intervention.
You need to be preventive about it.
Yes. So when we need to be preventive, we start from early days, start from childhood, look at them, teach children how to make friends. Not just be good at technology, just be good at studies. If you don't have that human relationship at all in any stages, you have no friends, no one to talk to, life will be very sad.
Sounds like human relationship and also being able to pursue your passion in every stage of your life is a very important thing in preparing for old age.
Yes.
Well, that's a wrap for In Your Opinion. I'm Lynda Hong. Thanks, Karen Wee, for your insights.
Thank you, Lynda, and thank you everybody for listening in.
You can email us your thoughts on this issue. Also, if you'd like to read ST articles or opinion columns, these links can be found in our podcast show notes. This episode is edited by Hadil Rahim. Thanks for listening.
Send your feedback to podcast@sph.com.sg. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or within our Straits Times app. Thanks for listening.